Hello, Lubbock. This is Robert Jenkins with Season 3, Episode 130 of the Focus LBK show. Today, unfortunately, is a sad occasion here on the South Plains in Lubbock, Texas specifically. If you haven't heard the news, please prepare yourself. But Mrs. Billie Caviel has departed the High Plains.
Get ready for news and views from Lubbock, Texas, USA. What's going on and real talk with people who move and do things. This is the Focus LBK show with your host, Robert Jenkins.
Yes, as I say, this is a sad time for Lubbock, specifically for East Lubbock, but really for the whole community. And for me, I'll say that today is a sad time and a reminder, a remotivator for me to spend time with our elders. That's one of our core functions here. Part of our mission here at the Focus LBK show is to spend time documenting our elders. Fortunately, over the last few years, we had the opportunity to make pictures of Mrs. Caviel, but unfortunately, we never really got to speak to her in depth. We said hi in passing and talked to her and asked her how she was doing and stuff like that. Every time we was out and about, we would see her. But we never actually sat down and in depth had a conversation about her, about her life and times. And you can find her information at the Southwest Digest. I'm sorry, not the Southwest Digest, but the Southwest Collection over on Tech, as I understand it. So you can look that up online if you've never been there. And you can pretty easily figure out how to go hear her personal history recording there. But, to me, this is a really frustrating because, like I said, part of my mission here at the Focus LBK show, at Focus LBK, is to preserve the presence of our ancestors as a way of reinforcing our culture here on the High Plains. Sadly, I have now lost the opportunity to get to know Mrs. Billie Caviel better, which also means that I have lost firsthand access to a treasure trove of knowledge, wisdom, and memories from a pioneering medical industry professional. I missed bonding with a woman who, as I understand it, co-owned and operated with her husband, Alfred, the first African-American husband and wife pharmacy in the United States. I would have loved to have been able to have sat down and just had some coffee or something with Miss Caviel and just chopped it up about stuff. It's unfortunate that we have lost her, but the silver lining is that it's a reminder and a remotivation to us and to us personally, to everybody and to me personally, as I say, to get back to the mission of preserving the words of the elders. And I want to point out right now, if you would like to arrange an oral history recording for an elder that you know of, please call us at 806-642-0949. That's 806-642-0949. Yes, it's super important for us to get to know our elders and ask them about the times and the events that they lived through. The reason it's so important is because our elders remind us of the philosophy and the ethos of our people. They bind us back to the power of our people. If we get to know the lives and deeds of our elders, it can help motivate us to overcome tough times in our lives right now. If you get to know them as humans by spending time with them, it'll show you too that you can overcome. Because you know what? Their blood flows in your veins. You literally are from them. And when you think about it, I'm like, maybe that's why modern society urges us to discard our elders, because when we discard our elders, in so doing, we destroy our own well of courage, of heart, perseverance, and power. I mean, I personally know that I have been blessed, that I knew my elders and I knew of their deeds and something of their lives. I got to spend time with them. I didn't just know them, I knew them. I give you a perfect example of one of the things that I learned about my elders, of one of many that just helps make me feel fortified inside. there's a story that was told to me when I was a kid, how my grandpa, Robert Jenkins Sr., and my grandma, Dorothy Jenkins at that time, Dorothy Parker later on, first Dorothy Parker, then Dorothy Gary at the time of her death. But anyway, my grandma and grandpa lived through a tornado. They literally woke up one night to a tornado, and they had to grab the kids in the darkness with gale force winds whipping all around the house, tearing off the shingles and stuff. They had to find the kids in the dark because it was all, they had lamps back in the days, probably. Barely had any electricity. Electricity was probably out. Whatever they had, it was dark. They run to the kids' room and pick them up. They had 4 kids. They run and pick up two, and they start running out the house. And my grandpa was telling me, he say, man, I was getting out of breath running across the yard. There was stuff flying in the air and debris and stuff. And he said, I felt like I was about to give out. And he said, I couldn't understand why I was so tired. He said, when we finally ran across the yard to the storm shelter, we got in there and I looked. And he said, man, I had my 2 oldest boys in my hands. They grown, they feet almost touching the ground. I'm running with them across the yard. He said, and your grandma back there with the 2 babies on her own, that's who I meant to grab. She running, trying to keep up with the 2 babies. I say, man, anyway, grandpa, when he told me about that, it's kind of funny now, right? But he was saying that, when he told me that story, it just helped me realize that, yeah. That vein, that blood, that spirit flows in my veins. We're not perfect. Sometimes you grab the wrong 2 kids, but you get your family through a tornado. So what I'm trying to say to us, Lubbock, is that the passing of Mrs. Billie Caviel has been a reminder to me, and maybe to all of us, that our elders are not just old people. They are people who were once strong and beautiful and courageous and resourceful, just like you might be now. See, the difference is they lived through a Great Depression. They lived through a World War. They lived through the Korean War. They helped make America the powerful, world-leading country that we are to this very day. Although I will say, you look around at the current events, and I'm not so sure how powerful we are, and I'm not so sure how long we're going to stay powerful. But you know what? Looking back through history is instructive even on that front, when you look around at all the crazy stuff that we going through. To me, what we going through right now looks like it's pointing to a realignment. There's a theory called the fourth turning. And the fourth turning is a theory that it comes from a book, actually, called The Fourth Turning by William Strauss and Neil Howe. And in this book, they talk about how they have observed in history that there's a pattern that repeats, a cycle, goes over and over again. It's called a seculum. And what they say the seculum is it's an 80 to 100 year cycle of history, which is driven by 4 generations of people that live in a society at that given time frame throughout those 80 to 100 years. And they have conflicts and motivations and drives. And those conflicts and motivations and drives produce a cycle. And that cycle always culminates every 80 to 100 years, which is the length of time of a long human life, they say. But that cycle, that saculum, culminates in a major transformative crisis, which basically shifts the world or realigns the country or the status quo that we are all used to. One of the authors, Neil Howe, also said recently, not too long ago, that we are in a fourth turning. And he's in the book, they talk about how this fourth turning that we're in started around 2008. And they estimate that it should draw to some kind of violent but regenerative closing or culmination sometime around 2030, if it holds true. It has held true throughout every period of history that these guys studied, and it shows how every 80 years you have a major event like a World War, World War II, the American Revolution, the Great Depression. They go all the way back to like the 1600s, talking about just 80 years. You see 80 to 100 years, a long human life. You see a saculum, this cycle of tension, release, growth, and then destruction occurs. And it seems to be, well, it definitely explains some of the things that we're seeing right now. When you think about all the people that came before you, your ancestors, your grandparents, fathers too, parents as well, but grandparents especially, excuse me, maybe even your great grandparents, when we think about how they came through all those tumultuous times that they lived through, then we start looking around at these times and we say, oh, high mortgage rates, looming war, general craziness that we see in, well, maybe this might be the beginning of the hard part. But guess what? You can make it through this. You know why you can make it through this? Because your people was strong. And how do you know your people was strong? Simple. If you came from weak people, you wouldn't be here right now. If you was weak, you wouldn't be here right now. This is the point of knowing your ancestors. They enforce the culture, the power, the strengths, the weaknesses of your forefathers. Our forefathers right here in Lubbock on the South Plains. How many of us is from Texas and the South Plains that's out here listening right now? Probably most of us from Texas, and a good chunk of us going to be from the South Plains. The people that make it out here, I was just talking about this with somebody the other day down at the city hall. And they was telling me how they noticed that you have to be pretty tough and resourceful to make your home in Lubbock. We don't come from no punks around here. We come from real people. We come from true grit. That old Western, was that John Wayne or somebody? Excuse me. So yeah, that's what studying history and specifically the history of your people, your ancestors. That's why we want to know our elders. That's why we want to heed the words of the elders. That's why we do it here at the Focus LBK show. That's why we have a whole section called Words from the Elders. Trying to preserve that memory, trying to always have access or keep access open to that reservoir of strength and resourcefulness and creativity and spirituality that helps sustain our forefathers. That's what we're trying to do here at the Focus LBK show. LBK, as we mourn the passing of Mrs. Billie Caviel, it's an appropriate time for us to just think about that. Maybe we should rededicate ourselves to getting to know our elders, getting back in contact with our strength and our historical power as West Texans. Please don't let it be too late again. Reach out to the people you know and talk to them. Get with them. Get to know them. We plan to. I want to say, give my condolences to the family of Mrs. Caviel. And I also want to just reiterate that you can call at 806-642-0949, 806-642-0949, and arrange an oral history recording. We don't want to let our elders just continue to pass away without finding some way to record their personal stories and struggles. LBK, don't let another one pass before you take some action. All right? Okay. Y'all take care. Peace.